Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhera-agale, Ni hao, Tunashumme, Washmale. Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Haleshuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalam, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabi, Balli Kare, Hosh Galdin, Anayo Saya, Huya Mora, Chivato, Chihalyod, Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, the name happens to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and I hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. First things first, obviously the people of Islamabad, the Rawalpindi, have you seen outside your window right in the morning? Because it's raining over here and the temperature early morning over here on the 31st of May 2023 happens to be 19 degrees centigrade only. And I'm like, hey, you know what? What's happening? I was just thinking to myself that, Alamia, please make sure that the weather stays the same in June and July as well, because these are the hottest months over here in Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Lahore and elsewhere in Pakistan as well. Well, obviously not at the northern part of Pakistan, but obviously if we try to start from Karachi to Lahore and then Islamabad, ladies and gentlemen, it gets really warm, and then, you know, this sweltering heat actually kind of makes you stick to your bed, turn on your air conditioner and not to do anything. Well, that's not something which hardworking people would really admire. That's something which I certainly do not admire or advocate as well, and there's a reason behind it, and that is that it does not really matter whether it's hot outside, whether it's cold outside, whether you can bear the consequences of the weather. Ladies and gentlemen, I think for people who are hardworking, who are focused, what they do every day is wake up, dress up, show up and make sure that whatever they have, they share, they contribute in order to achieve their goal. And that's my message today. So no matter what sort of a problem you might be facing as of now, please make sure that you sit down, relax for a while, and then think about it. Pray to Allah Almighty, Allah Mia, please make sure that my work gets easier, and that's it. Just go at it, make sure that it's a bullseye from your perspective. But other than that, what's going on in the country and outside the country, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about that. Top stories coming up. First up, obviously, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said that the provision of maximum relief to the masses and economic development would be among the federal government's priorities in the upcoming budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Chairing a meeting to discuss the budget proposals for the industrial sector, the Prime Minister said the federal budget would also encompass the measures to enhance industrial growth as well as exports. He said that he would personally make sure that the proposals coming for the industrial sector were incorporated into the budget. And it looks like as if a lot of people are going to benefit from this budget as well, because there have been news around which makes a lot of people happy, and that is that the duty on the cell phones might be slashed as well. You know, people are waiting that, okay, you know, duties on cars will be slashed too. And, you know, for the common man out there, I think that the things, you know, the what we call over here is the necessities will actually become a little more cheaper, and then we certainly want to experience as the nation that, you know, that the inflation actually goes down as well. So we truly believe in, you know, the entire team of our government, you know, which is led by the Prime Minister Mia Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif Saab as well. You know, just yesterday we spoke about Narowal City's sports complex, which was recently built, and then, you know, there was this inaugural match which took place over there. So inshallah, in days to come, ladies and gentlemen, we're very hopeful for Pakistan. Moving on, where I just spoke about the weather, ladies and gentlemen, the weather conditions over here in the Twin Cities continue to receive intermittent rain along with other parts in northern region. According to Met Office, a westerly wave is affecting most parts of the country and likely to persist in upper parts till Thursday. Wow. So it's not just till Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, it's till Thursday. So even on the 1st of June, that's how the weather is going to be. Furthermore, wind, dust, thunderstorm, rain with few hailstorm and isolated heavy falls expected in Punjab, Islamabad, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Upper Eastern Sindh, North Balochistan, Gilgit-Baltistan and Kashmir during next 24 hours. Wow. So it's all of Pakistan where, ladies and gentlemen, we are receiving intermittent rains. And for everybody who's out there, you know, we're certainly I had a verbal advisory to share, and that was that for all of those people who are going out, because it's going to be windy and you never know when the hailstorm is going to start as well. So please make sure that you do not park your cars under trees or under, you know, buildings or roofs as well, where you certainly think that, you know, something can actually fall off on your vehicle. Protect yourself, keep an umbrella with you, and not eat a lot of pakoras. I mean, eat pakoras, but not a lot of pakoras, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you enjoy while the weather is great. But today happens to be a very important day. Imagine, so we have been talking about that, smoking is really not good for health, and the pressure it creates on the health sector is a very different subject as well. But now today, ladies and gentlemen, on the 31st of May, it actually happens to be the World No Tobacco Day. Now, when we say that it happens to be World No Tobacco Day, what we certainly need to understand is that the theme this year is we need food, not tobacco. So for all of those tobacco growers who are out there, I think that there certainly need to be the tobacco growing needs to be replaced with an alternate crop. Which crop? We'll talk about that. But the 2023 global campaign aims to raise awareness about alternative crop production and marketing opportunities for tobacco farmers and encourage them to grow sustainable, nutritious crops. And that's what we want. It would also aim to expose the tobacco industry's efforts to interfere with attempts to substitute tobacco growing with sustainable crops, thereby contributing to the global food crisis. Wow. And this is certainly what we are speaking about today as well. And we have a wonderful guest who has actually joined us over here inside the PTV World Studios, and I would like to introduce him. First of all, obviously, his personality is very grand. Alhamdulillah, and every time, alhamdulillah, he's been on the show, I've always made sure that I give him this compliment because he truly deserves it. And he's that one gentleman who's always been advocating about no smoking, no tobacco. And, the research part of it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad that, we have people like him over here in the country who actually focus on research and then make sure that, okay, we build back better as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, to speak about World No Tobacco Day, we're very lucky that we've been joined by former DG Health. Ladies and gentlemen, he happens to be Dr. Minhajus Siraj. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam and a very good morning. I'm feeling perfectly well, and I'm thankful to the PTB World that it's almost a decade of excellence and commitment to the cause that they have been supporting us for this.
And thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. The honor is all mine and the privilege is all mine as well that you have taken out time and that too on this important day where you're certainly very busy throughout the day. Sir, I will come, I would certainly want to speak in detail, but first things first, what I would want to ask you is how would you highlight the importance of this day? I think it was back in 1988 that, for the very first time that the World No Tobacco Day was observed, when the resolution was passed. And before this, it was the No Smoking Day, I think, something of that sort. Please.
Thank you very much. Actually, No Smoking Day is observed in some of the European countries only.
7th of April.
7th of April. But this World No Tobacco Day is being observed under the platform of World Health Organization.
Yes.
And the basic thing is to raise awareness on the hazards of tobacco use and the damage which it is causing to the health of its consumers, or even beyond that, I would rather like to say that the Sustainable Development Goals, out of those 17 goals for the developing countries, it damages at least more of half of those goals, directly or indirectly.
True.
And this year the World Health Organization has focused on, as you rightly mentioned, that to grow food, not tobacco, and that is to sustain also the second SDG, that is to eradicate hunger on the world.
True.
So, if we grow food or edibles on the land where the tobacco is cultivated, and as it happens that Pakistan is the 5th largest producer of tobacco products with hundreds of square miles of, it's exactly to be 504 square miles of land where the tobacco is cultivated. So, if we can switch over to some other crops and growing food, which may not be possible immediately. True. Because when you grow tobacco in the land due to the use of excessive fertilizers and the chemicals, it is not conducive to give you edibles immediately after tobacco growth crops. But for the time being, there have been so many good experiments going on throughout the world, like the Kenya has switched over to growing bamboo instead of tobacco, and even Bangladesh is growing potato instead of tobaccos. So, we have to grow something which is not as hazardous for the health, rather it gives us a nutrition. So, if you just simply calculate the 500 square miles of land, if it is producing edible things, we can feed at least 10 million people of our country.
And it's wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for reminding us that, how directly and indirectly it's actually damaging our SDGs as well, and how we might, God forbid, not be able to achieve our sustainable development goals by 2030. But sir, while we speak of it, so you said that, and World Health Organization and the other champions who are working, to make sure that this industry of tobacco kind of does not survive. What I would certainly want to ask you is that, when we speak about alternate crops, obviously there needs to be some research in it, number one. Yes. Number two, do you think it is imperative for us to stop growing tobacco, or do you think that we grow tobacco but we export it to other countries?
Coming to the last point first.
Yes.
If we think that it is hazardous and it is a killer for our population, same goes for the whole world.
True.
So being a public health person,
I would not recommend.
I would not recommend that we only grow to export it.
Okay.
We rather, you can say, we switch over to those crops which
and we export them.
We can export them, like whatever. But as a research part, the basic problem which we have been facing for the last so many years is that our indigenous research is not sufficient. We cannot give proper evidence to our decision makers.
Farmers, yes.
To our decision makers in the government, that yes, because you know this growing of tobacco in Pakistan, that was a political decision about 40-50 years back, when Pakistan was switching its status from a drug-free nation. So we allowed the farmers to grow tobacco instead of poppies.
Okay.
So to a lesser
because
evil.
We thought that it's a
that
better
is
option.
It's a better option. It's a lesser evil, and it will be bringing profit to the farmers.
Okay.
So, but now, as the world knows that the tobacco growing that also is contributing to so many bad things, like as I mentioned, the SDGs are being hampered.
True.
Start from poverty,
hunger,
and health, and then education. Those children who are working in the tobacco field, they never see the face of the school.
True.
So many things going on with that, and then environment also. The tobacco roasting, it damages our, at least we can safely say that 25% of our annual firewood protection is burned to roast tobacco. And those are the figures quoted by the Pakistan Tobacco Board. Those are not just hypothetical figures.
Exactly, but sir, what the World Health Organization is trying to say this year is they're trying to say that that all of these companies, they actually kind of interfere and hinder when we speak about alternate crop growing as well. So if that's what the Pakistan Tobacco Board has to say, how do you think that they are interfering? They're not allowing the grower to kind of grow any other fruit, vegetable than tobacco?
There is a universal trend that tobacco companies, they act as mafia. Okay. We call them big tobacco. And they interfere with the government policies, whichever we try to formulate for controlling the use of tobacco.
And whichever region they may probably be operational in.
Mostly in the developing countries.
Okay.
Because the developed countries have made their laws so stringent that the tobacco products are so expensive, they are out of reach of the children.
They are expensive over here now as well.
Now they are.
And there's 50 billion of additional taxation as well, which I would love to congratulate the government on that. And obviously Prime Minister Mia Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif Saab and our Finance Minister Sagda Saab as well. Yes. We can see the billboards everywhere, and I think it's a wonderful effort to kind of control it as well. Sir, please.
So as you mentioned, I would quote that thing that by raising these taxes, revenue is coming. But the tobacco industry has been trying to give a false impression that due to these high prices of cigarettes, the illicit tobacco trade market has grown exponentially,
okay.
which is a false thing. Even yesterday, we had a strong discussion with that, and I was just telling them when we get the tax returns of the current financial year by August this year. So then we will be exactly be knowing that how much the growth or this production of the tobacco products from the local legit companies have grown down.
But sir, I have a rough figure which I can share with you, and obviously I think it contributes 0.4% to the GDP as well. Yes, 111 billion rupees. That's what we are speaking of. But eventually, if we speak of 111 billion rupees, imagine that people who end up being hospitalized, just because of the use of tobacco,
yes,
cost the government of Pakistan somewhat around 300 billion rupees.
It's minimum 3
so
times.
There's no advantage at all. Yes. So the industry is not contributing at all. Rather, it is creating havoc for, the health providers, for the entire system of health care giving. So how do you think that people really, or the policy makers needs to see it? Because imagine this way around, 111 billion, they're contributing to your GDP. 300 billion, you're losing out of your GDP just because of the fact that people are falling ill because of the use of tobacco. Sir.
Thank you. But those figures of 111 billion were before those higher taxes.
Exactly.
So this year it might be much more. But still, the health cost, which have been calculated over the last couple of years, they are at least 3 times of the revenue which we are getting from the tobacco industry. So definitely we are losing everywhere. We are losing on the health side, we are losing on the environment side, we are losing on the food side. So everywhere it is damaging.
True.
Just to fulfill, you can say, the narcotics type of thing, need of the population, adult population. In Pakistan, we happen to have almost 31% of our adult population smoking cigarettes.
True.
So that is not taking us anywhere. And yes, those people who are smoking, their health deteriorates over the years and they lose their productive years, and we lose their disability adjusted life years are so many things.
And sir, I 100% agree to it, but you know, there's one more sentiment of a common man, you know, who's actually a smoker who wants to smoke. He's like, okay, you know, I've decided for myself that for the rest of my life I'm going to smoke. Just on a very lighter note.
Right.
That is, they say that there's so much inflation in the country. There's so much political instability. Now the cigarettes have been so expensive as well. So we cannot even, you know, kind of reduce our stress by having that one cigarette. And I would want to say it in Urdu, you know. So there was this gentleman who I met and वो कह रहा था भाई महंगाई देखे मुल्क में कितनी हो गई, कितना एक सुकून से हम सिगरेट पी लेते थे, अब हम वो भी नहीं पी सकते, मांग के पीना पड़ता है. Number one. Number two, then there are other gentlemen who are worried now. And why? And I asked the gentleman, I was like, why are you worried? He was like, yeah, the cigarettes are so expensive. So if I, you know, buy a packet for myself, there's so many other people to ask for a cigarette from me, where, you know, and it certainly does depress me at times as well. So how do you think that the common man really needs to respond to this, that, okay, there are people like you are advocating that there shouldn't be any tobacco, there shouldn't be any smoking. Do you think that they're going to like it?
First of all, we have to clarify one thing, that tobacco products, smoking them or using them in any other form, they do not relieve stress.
True, true.
That is a fallacy.
Exactly.
Created by the tobacco industry. And rightly so, because they add so many addictive chemicals to the product.
True.
And till the time you are, because you are, you can say, high cognizant centers, cells, they are dependent on nicotine to work at the optimum level. Till the time your blood concentration of nicotine is not at that level, you cannot
function.
You can function.
Yeah, so you become
physically
habitual.
or emotionally or mentally. No, all of them.
People even use it for their metabolism. And sir, if we go back in days, you know, so certainly I think it was my father who actually told me that, you know, back in those days when, you know, there was, I mean, just around partition, you know, so the Buzurg of that, those times was certainly used to use hookah, you know, so we call it shisha these days as well, and they used to say that the metabolism actually runs faster, and people have made so many stories around it that it contributes, and people would use it, you know, just for normal gatherings as well. And that's very rightfully that you've said that, you know, that you're so dependent on it that to function optimum on an optimum energy level, you certainly need it, you know, otherwise you certainly feel dependent. That's one way of putting it, and that's the most right way and the most authentic way as well. But now, sir, where I would want to take this conversation is that, imagine now, let's come down to sustainable development goals. So there's deforestation, then there's you know, no indigenous research, then, you know, the impact it's going to have on environment. So you've spoken about the health sector. Imagine what they're going to do with the environment as well. People are talking about climate change. Imagine how it's contributing to that as well.
Yes.
So how do you think that in recent times the government needs to come up with a newer policy where we certainly control tobacco production and tobacco growing?
Thank you very much, and that was a very interesting and I would rather say directly focused query and comment. Because in an hour from now, the Pakistan government tobacco control cell is going to launch the first tobacco control policy of this country.
Wow.
We have been working on it for almost a decade.
Can you give us a brief snippet of what's in it, what it holds for the people of the country, and how it's going to benefit them?
So basically, we tobacco control advocates, what we have been promoting, we have been following the international, you can say, the things which have been happening around us. And of course, the World Health Organization, it has a dedicated secretariat for control of tobacco product, FCTC secretariat.
Yep.
And all the other good examples, like in Australia, they have so many stringent laws for controlling tobacco use and everything, and the packaging has gone to the plain packaging,
Yes.
and they are talking about their next generation's tobacco free.
True.
So we wanted to have our own, like I said, indigenous policy, which suits to our country. Because Pakistan is one of the topmost 5 tobacco growing countries. We are a tobacco growing low middle income country, LMIC, which we can say. So we need to devise our own formulas. We have been following those there was one success story when we started working on our smoke-free areas, because it happened to be in our tobacco control law.
Islamabad happens to be a
Yes.
smoke-free city, yes.
Now we have 5 districts in Punjab.
Wow.
And 7 districts of Karachi, and 2 districts in KP also.
Sir, we are only saying it now. It's not that it's literally smoke-free, you know.
Basically, the thing is that when we talk about a smoke-free city,
Yes.
basic requirements by international requirements are that you need to have a law or a legal instrument which should say that you cannot smoke in a public place.
True.
And you cannot smoke in a public transport.
Exactly.
So
public transport, yes, we agree.
Yes.
But public spaces, I don't think that they're smoke-free. Wow.
Thank you. But in Islamabad, our 80% or more of the public places, they are smoke-free. And they have their own local policies to enforce these policies.
Exactly. And sir, I believe that it's for the community to kind of behave on this as well and make sure that, you know, that if there are some people who are smoking, and you know, if that public space is smoke-free, they certainly need to go up to them and ask them to not smoke over there, number one. Number two, sir, you know, when you're against such a bigger mafia, you know, people like you who happen to be the advocates of no tobacco and no tobacco growing, so the tobacco companies might kind of contact you and try to be like, Dr. Minhajul Saraj Saab, sir, please, you know, accept some mithai from us, or you know, accept this from us, and please make sure that you stop advocating. Did that ever happen to you?
Luckily, it could not.
It never happened.
It never happened.
Or you certainly do not want to share it.
No.
Because
I'm open to that.
It comes from very different sources. It might be a friend of yours. You know, they might not come directly as well. So it has never happened.
The only one incident which I can quote directly is that what they tried to influence the federal secretary.
Okay.
At that time, there was a Capital Administration and Development Division after the devolution of the health. So we were working there. So they approached the secretary through Prime Minister office, and they tried to create a story that the enforcement teams on our smoke-free city, they have damaged their posters and they have destroyed their kiosks or something like that. So, but the federal secretary clarified that these are the health people.
Exactly.
They are not the law enforcers.
Wow, that's wonderful.
That is the job of the district government.
True.
Federal excise office.
So they were just trying to.
We are trying to make only policies to save the public from the hazards of tobacco use.
Exactly.
So this is not our job. And that is the only one incident I can quote in over my more than a decade-long journey on tobacco control.
Sir, very quickly, one last question before we actually wrap up this segment, and that is that, you know, so okay, we've seen a lot of advocates, but these days we see a lot of, you know, adverts for these nicotine chew bites as well, number one. Number two, there's a mushroom growth of vapes stores as well out there. How do you think that, you know, that you and, you know, the health ministry is actually going to focus on making sure that vapes are not sold just like that, you know, around all corners, and make sure that, you know, they're not showing some certain ads with nicotine products in it, because it's all over television. You walk into any shop, there are posters on top of it as well, and they show as if, you know, you're going to perform at an optimum level. If you're in Rockstar, you know, you put that nicotine chew gum in you and you'll be all in the sky. You know? So do you think that there will be an advisory related to that?
So the tobacco industry, because of their profit margins, started shrinking over the years. Excessive strategies coming out from the tobacco control people. So they started thinking ahead.
Okay.
So they came up with this synthetic nicotine because they
And I
knew
believe
that
it's more dangerous.
Yes, of course.
It's
It's
synthetic,
a chemical,
first of all.
It's chemical. So that nicotine pouches and everything, they're not containing the agriculturally grown tobacco crop. That is only synthetic
Even that
nicotine.
is not advisable.
Yes, but the thing is that I'm sure the tobacco control policy, it contains a few you can say divisive kind of activities which will try to control these novel tobacco products, we
So
call
do you
them.
think that policy which will be released
Yes.
in an hour will certainly speak of
It
and
contains
address this
a
issue?
specific chapter on that, and we are working on that, and hopefully in a year or so, because I'm a part of that also.
Wow.
So we are working on those novel tobacco products because we did not have any law to control them, and they have these people who have been selling them, or they have been
Smart about it.
smart about it, and they have gone into legislation, litigation against us in so many forums. So we are trying to get, and through this policy, we will be able to make a framework and rules for the government.
Exactly.
So that
And sir, where you actually spoke about alternate crop growing as well, so please make sure that for all of those people who opened up these vape shops, tell them what are the businesses to indulge in as well other than
Yes.
vapes.
The first interesting thing is that the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, they are always on board with us.
Okay.
All the trade unions, they are always on board with us. We never go to a marketplace, we never, the excise
Directly.
department even, they make sure that they do not force themselves against the...
Or hinder the interest of a common man.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Exactly.
wonderful. Thank you so much,
Exactly.
Dr. Saab, for being with us.
I'm
Lovely
fine.
to be in conversation with you,
Thank
and
you.
we certainly need champions like you who advocate about having no tobacco at all. And for people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, I think we certainly need to believe every word he said, and it's because of the fact that number one, it's good for you. Number two, it's going to be good for the country. Number three, we'll be able to achieve most of the sustainable development goals. So please make sure that we say no to tobacco on World No Tobacco Day. And it's not only important that we say no to tobacco on this day. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important aspect of it is that we make sure that we certainly do not go closer to it or near to it, because it causes quite a lot of other cardiovascular diseases. Which ones? That's something we are discussing in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Obviously, you tune into PTO World and are watching World this morning alongside Shahzad Hassan Khan. It's an honor every morning to be over here, because I look up to this, and, I make sure that, every single day when I'm coming on television, I make sure that I contribute at least something to your life, which is going to have a positive impact. Since obviously we are observing World No Tobacco Day today, I'm very lucky that I've been joined by my other guest as well, ladies and gentlemen. He's one of the most high-profile guests over here in the Twin Cities, and people certainly need to call him again and again to have him on TV shows as well. We're very lucky that he has actually joined us on this important day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce the Chairman Cardiology Department, PIMS. He happens to be Professor Dr. Naeem Malik Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, walaikum salam. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure sitting in this forum and
you so much.
talking about the cardiovascular and other diseases in Pakistan, which are unfortunately on the rise here.
Exactly. And sir, thank you so much for saying that. Unfortunately, they're on the rise over here as well. We're observing World No Tobacco Day. How do you think smoking harms your cardiovascular activity? How do you think it hinders with it? How do you think it is going to have an impact on your heart? And do you think that the science literally kind of tells you with evidence that, hey, you certainly need to stop smoking?
Sir, I just want to tell you that if you count three major risk factors for the cardiovascular as well as cerebrovascular disorders, diseases in the people, and the smoking happens to be a major risk factor for all these ailments,
Okay.
along with diabetes and hypertension and cholesterol. So smoking is really on top of the list, especially in the younger people.
And sir, in addition to that, so when we speak about smoking, obviously there are a lot of issues. But when we look at the general health of all those Pakistanis who are out there, unfortunately, we certainly are not making sure that we are going to have some good diet. We're making sure that we're not going to go exercise. We are making sure that we're going to take a lot of stress. So it contributes to it as well. So, holistically, if we are to understand heart health, How would you explain it to us that, okay, if you want a healthier heart, these are the activities you must indulge yourself in?
Well, if you count all these risk factors, if you count the items 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, but when it comes to the risk factors, it becomes 1 plus 1 is equal to 4.
Okay.
So, the more the risk factors are in a person, the very high chances of having a cardiovascular or cerebrovascular problem, disease in that particular patient.
All right.
So, as I just said, unfortunately, the smoking is on the rise in Pakistan.
True.
The diabetes, we are rapidly spreading nation of diabetes. It used to be 12% few years back, but now the incidence of diabetes in Pakistan is about 30%, and so is hypertension, high blood pressure. High
True.
blood pressure used to be the 18% or so in the adult population of Pakistan, but now the incidence has gone up to about 25 to 30%. So, in spite of all the measures we are taking, we are talking to the people, we are treating, but the disease is on the rise in Pakistan. That is why I said it is very unfortunate here.
Exactly, and obviously we have spoken about it as well. So if any disease or illness is going to be on the rise, is going to have a negative impact on the health sector as well. And so imagine that if they already have a restricted facility, to make sure that okay, we can only entertain 100 or 200,000 people a year. Imagine if it's going to be 400,000 people, because 1 plus 1 in risk factors is not 2, as Professor Saab has rightfully mentioned, it's going to be 4. So imagine what's going to happen with the people who are supposed to give you care, who are supposed to give you all of those facilities which will make sure that you're going to be healthier. But sir, now let's discuss it one by one. So diabetes, it has always been on a rise, not a single Pakistani who might not have heard about diabetes. And so do you think that it's genetic, or do you think that it's because of the activities we indulge ourselves into as adult beings?
In fact, it is both.
Okay.
Genetically, we are a predisposed nation to diabetes, but partly it is being contributed by our dietary habits. We don't like to walk, we don't like to go to the parks.
We only like to talk. That's
yes,
it.
we only talk. We are really.
ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਾ ਲਓ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਜਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਕਰਾਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਮਸਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ.
We don't like to go to the parks. We even go to the masjid for on bicycles as well as motor cars. So we don't like to really to walk.
True.
We are unable to keep our weights in check. Well, the weight will be ideal, but the person will be showing his tummy.
True.
Tummy has to be taken care of. You have to measure your tummy, and please make it ideal as per your height. So the people who show their tummy, they are that's another risk factor for the diabetes, as well as we call it metabolic syndrome.
Okay.
So metabolic syndrome is actually a composition of many risk factors. The person develops diabetes, develops cardiovascular disease, develops stroke, and so many things.
So there are a lot of issues.
Our diet is very rich, and we are very fond of eating,
That's the only entertainment we have outside our schools and workplaces as well. And even if we are at workplace, so 1 o'clock, okay, our lunch time.
Yes.
5, okay, I have to go back home, it's my juice time.
Even if you are not hungry, you will have
Something.
It's now tea time and lunch time. Let's have something.
I think we fall prey to these taste buds of ours, and we certainly at times just to kind of satisfy our taste buds we're eating. It's nothing other than that. We're not hungry, our body might not even require it, and we are burdening our metabolism. Okay, so since we have spoken about diabetes, and obviously we are predisposed to it genetically, that's something which you've rightly mentioned. And I always, one way or the other, I'm always asking my parents as well that I've lost so many hair or so much of my hair that I think that you guys didn't even take the right diet. and they're like, okay, you're being naughty now. But sir, now let's come down to the silent killer, cholesterol. Majority of the people over here might not even know what it can do to your heart health. Majority of the people cannot know that it's a silent killer. Majority of the people do not even know that they have higher cholesterol. So how do you think that people can analyze and realize that okay, cholesterol really needs to be kept a check on, and that we certainly need to control it no matter what?
Well, hypercholesterolemia, high cholesterol in your blood, is something which does not really give you any symptom.
True.
So, it is, as you rightly said, that it is a silent killer. It keeps on building in the blood and keeps on depositing in your blood vessels, trying to create blockages in your coronary arteries as well as cerebrovascular arteries. And you come to know one day when all of a sudden the person has a heart attack.
True.
Or has a stroke. So, then when you measure, you send the blood for analyzing, and you come to know that your cholesterol was also high. So, it is very important, mandatory, that you keep on checking your cholesterol from time to time.
True.
Especially after the age of 30 years. One thing I must say here, that a person who has diabetes, the cholesterol comes by itself.
Okay.
It gets high in diabetic patients. So, especially those who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, they should keep on checking their cholesterol levels from time to time.
Okay. And sir, in addition to that, do you think that there are any other dietary adjustments which they can make, for example, if they are diabetic? Because just yesterday I met somebody who was diabetic, but he was in great shape. It looked like as if he was an athlete. So he had muscle. He had a chiseled jaw, and I was like, yeah, you've got some great physique. So imagine that guy starts speaking to me, and he says that my diabetes was at my sugar was at 500, my cholesterol was at 300 something, and he was like, my ECG didn't come in well, and I was like, yeah, but you look so fit. So do you think that it's only our dietary habit, or do you think it's the anxiety, it's the depression, how you mentally kind of take conditions, or how hard your life might probably be, can contribute to all of these illnesses?
Well, you have to fight it out.
Okay.
The person who unfortunately develops diabetes or hypertension, he or she does not really need to give up.
Okay.
You have to fight it out.
And the treatments are available?
Treatment is available, and you can even revert it.
Okay. You can revert
go
diabetes.
Back to zero level also.
This is for the very first time that I have actually heard doctors saying that you can revert diabetes.
Yes. You can control if you are overweight, please control it. As you just said, that if you build up your muscle mass and cut down your fat in the body.
True.
So, you can even revert it. You can go back to the zero level. So, don't give up. Don't be depressed.
Don't give up. Don't be depressed. And sir, God forbid, so imagine that people over here would actually get to know that unfortunately they are ill, and that too on the 11th hour. God forbid they had a stroke. God forbid there was a heart attack episode as well. And the sole reason happens to be because we certainly do not have a process where everybody goes to the doctor or to the laboratory and make sure that they're going to get themselves tested at least once a year or twice a year. So there's no such habit. In fact, rather, I'm very sorry, but I'll have to share over here that NHS in England, they actually send emails to all of their people and citizens that okay, it's your time to go and get yourself tested, and all of those executive checkups are being done, and for each and every citizen, that too for free. And since you happen to be the chairman cardiology department, PIMS, don't you suggest at times that okay, we can call a number of people in, get themselves tested, so that in order to kind of resort to the last minute solution, we already know that they are healthier, they are better, and there needs to be a database of the people where they're all checks in places.
Yes, you are very rightly pointing out at the system. Right now, we don't have such system here in Pakistan, but we should develop where we need to be calling the people and testing them for high cholesterol and diabetes and things like that. You are absolutely right, and I'm trying to develop this.
Wow.
First of all, I'll test all the employees of the cardiac center.
True.
Then I'll spread this checking to all the employees of the hospital. Then I'm going to call their families, and that's how the circle will widen.
Exactly.
And then we can have a good data also.
Exactly, and that's exactly the same formula where you said that okay, if you speak about the risk factors, 1 + 1 is 4, it's the same formula to decreasing it as well, and I think it will work wonders. Yes, but now sir, one more thing before I move on to a lighter question, and that is when we speak about cardiovascular diseases, God forbid, so if someone has not checked their cholesterol, they do not know whether they're diabetic or not, they do not know whether they have hypertension or not. How do you think, just sitting at home, anybody who's actually watching our show in 46 different countries can realize that, God forbid, there might be something wrong with me, I need to get myself checked up? What are those symptoms which people really need to be aware of, that, okay, if that's the kind of activity my heart is producing, I certainly need to get myself checked up?
First of all, after the age of 30 in Pakistan, periodically you should go for a regular checkup to a doctor. Say every 2 years go and get your blood checked for diabetes as well as for cholesterol.
Okay.
And if you are observing any change in your body, you are observing that you are developing shortness of breath, you are unable to walk that briskly which you used to do, or you are having headaches, or your head starts whirling at some time, and you are not able to sleep properly, you are not able to absorb the stress which you used to do, then I think that is the time to go to a doctor and get yourself checked.
Wow. And thank you so much, sir, for saying that, because a lot of people might even come across these conditions and they might be like, okay, yaar, I don't think that there's something, it might be just, for once.
One thing is very important, that we are very fond of self-diagnosing the things. Oh, I think
gas ho gayi
hai. I think, oh, I didn't sleep well last night, that's why. No.
There
no,
can be
please,
a problem.
There can be a big problem really cooking up.
Exactly.
So please don't ignore it.
And go to the doctor, make sure that you go to the right doctor, you need to make the right choices as well. And they very famously say that, from this place to this place, if there's any pain, any ache, please make sure that you do not take it lightly, make sure that you take it seriously and go to a doctor. Is that true? That, from here, till your tummy, if there's any pain, ache, that you need to go to the doctor?
I always say that if there is any complaint between your umbilicus and your ears,
come to the doctor.
Yes.
Straight
and
away.
You are a smoker and you have a tummy, you have overweight, you are overweight and you are diabetic and you have a family history, never ignore, please.
Wow, wonderful. And so very quickly, so for all of those people who are out there, because, we go to the laboratories ourselves as well and we're like, yeah, CBC kar dena, cholesterol check kar dena, LFTs, RFTs. What tests do you think people need to get done preliminary, for their heart health checkup? And God forbid, if there's something, obviously they need to go to a cardiologist like your status as well. So what test? ETT would you recommend? Echo, ECG? What would you recommend?
Always on the advice of the doctor.
Okay.
First go to the doctor, whatever he or she advises, please follow it. But if you are away from a doctor, get your cholesterol checked, get your HbA1c, which tells you your average sugar in the last 3 months. A fasting blood sugar, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, these are the tests you should go for.
Exactly. Well, that's wonderful. And sir, very quickly towards the end, so I'm just going to ask you, it's on a lighter note, and that is that since we are speaking about cardiovascular activity and the diseases and illnesses and what can possibly harm it, so do you think people who were in love and now, their loved ones are not around them can actually have an impact on their heart? If somebody's, loved one is not around, if somebody's spouse is not around, do you think it can have an impact on
Obviously,
them? Obviously.
Missing someone, you tend to go into depression.
Yeah.
You tend to secrete excessive adrenaline in your body. That adrenaline kicks your heart. Your blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, anxiety level goes up. So definitely.
So thank you so much, sir, for advocating on this as well, because ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you do not break any more hearts, because imagine that it can actually have a direct impact on that individual's heart health as well. Please make sure that you do not put him or her under stress or anxiety by just telling them that, hey, you know what, we're no longer be a part of your life. So please make sure that you contribute to them being healthy rather than them being depressed, which can actually contribute to them, God forbid, their cardiovascular activity might be impacted due to this as well. But thank you so much, Professor Saab, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with such an amazing gentleman who actually kind of advocates that, okay, people who are in love really need to stay in love, because otherwise, God forbid, it can damage their heart's activity as well. But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to sum it up. Obviously, first up, it was World No Tobacco Day. Please make sure that you keep your children safe. For all of those adults who have this habit of smoking, please make sure that you try giving it up, one step every single day. And then while we were in conversation with Dr. Saab over here in the second segment where we wanted to speak about heart health, obviously he said that, we can get ourselves tested by themselves if you know you do not have a doctor around you, so make sure that you get your cholesterol checked out, HbA1c, the triglycerides, and all of these tests are to make sure that all of your figures are in healthier numbers, you know, within the range where it needs to be. God forbid if the range is above that or low that, you know, please make sure that you go to a doctor. Number 3, you know, diabetes has increased from 12% to 30%. I think people really need to kind of take a look after them because he mentioned that, you know, we are a nation, you know, who have this very ability that God forbid we can get diabetes genetically as well. So we really need to keep a check. We need to improve our dietary habits. And towards the end, there's an increase in hypertension as well. It used to be 18%, it's at 30% now. Please make sure that you stay calm, relax, stay with your kids, play with them. You know, Allah will give you what you want in your life. Please keep on asking Allah for that, nobody else, all right? So until next time, look after yourselves. Keep your heart healthy so that your brain's healthy, so that you can do all the activity you want. Until next time, it's a good morning. Allah Hafiz. Thank you so much, sir.